They got him. They got him. Extraordinary press conference just about 45 minutes ago out of Utah. We'll give you the highlights of it and give you all the details we know about the suspect now in custody in the assassination of Charlie Kirk. And we'll have some more reflection about how we got here and why the political rhetoric from the left aimed at conservatives, dehumanizing us and othering us because we dare to have different political opinions. No. Actually, we dare to have the dominant, most popular political opinion. We are the majority, not the extremist fringe, but we're supposed to keep our mouth shut. Yeah, we're going to talk that through a little bit coming up next. Also, the extraordinary scene when the remains of Charlie Kirk were returned to his home state of Arizona by the Vice President of the United States. We want to share with you what happened there on the ground in Arizona. And the unhinged left, they have to criticize, they have to mock, they have to celebrate, and they have to lie about Charlie Kirk. And we're going to expose all of that coming up right now. We're brought to you by The Lion. My name is Larry O'Connor, but you can call me Larry. We really appreciate everybody joining us, being part of our conversation, especially this week. Thank you for that. In fact, big news. You brought us over the 600,000 subscriber mark this week on YouTube, and we are humbled and honored at your support for what we're doing. This week has been extraordinary, and we could not have been able to get through it without your companionship, your fellowship, and the community that you've helped us build here. And to that end, if you haven't subscribed yet, we'd love for you to do so, especially if you like our videos and you like the content we've been putting out for you. And speaking of liking, you know what to do. The thumbs up would go a long way, and all of your comments in our live chat and in our videos on demand. When you tell us that you like the videos, when you tell us why, when you offer your opinion, when you tell us how you found us and what our show means to you, we read every single one of your comments, and we really appreciate it. Please do it again. Thank you. If you care about staying sharp and informed, make The Lion part of your daily routine. Published by the Herzog Foundation, The Lion covers the headlines that matter, from politics and policy to culture and faith, all through a common sense, values-driven lens. It's the kind of journalism that goes beyond the surface, offering the context and clarity today's news demands. Whether you're tracking big national stories or you want to know what's happening in schools, state houses, and communities across the country, The Lion delivers smart, well-sourced reporting you're not going to find anywhere else. Visit readlion.com to catch up on the latest must-read stories. And while you're there, sign up for The Lion's daily and weekly newsletters. That's readlion.com, news that informs and respects your worldview. In the 10 o'clock hour, excuse me, let me try that one more time. In the 9 o'clock Eastern hour, an extraordinary press conference was conducted in Utah where they announced that, yes, in fact, they had apprehended the person in question, the suspect in the assassination of Charlie Kirk. In fact, President Trump sort of preempted the press conference by announcing it obliquely on the curvy couch there at the Fox and Friends set during the 8 o'clock Eastern hour. But let's turn to some highlights of this press conference, specifically the governor of Utah delivering some of the details.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We got him. On the evening of September 11th, a family member of Tyler Robinson reached out to a family friend who contacted the Washington County Sheriff's Office with information that Robinson had confessed to them or implied that he had committed the incident. This information was relayed to the Utah County Sheriff's Office and scene investigators at Utah Valley University. This information was also conveyed to the FBI. Investigators reviewed additional video footage from UVU surveillance and identified Robinson arriving on UVU campus in a gray Dodge Challenger at approximately 8:29 a.m. on September 10th, in which he is observed on video in a plain maroon t-shirt, light-colored shorts, a black hat with a white logo, and light-colored shoes. When encountered in person by investigators in Washington County on September 12th, in the early morning hours, Robinson was observed in consistent clothing with those surveillance images. Investigators interviewed a family member of Robinson who stated that Robinson had become more political in recent years. The family member referenced a recent incident in which Robinson came to dinner prior to September 10th, and in the conversation with another family member, Robinson mentioned Charlie Kirk was coming to UVU. They talked about why they didn't like him and the viewpoints that he had. The family member also stated Kirk was full of hate and spreading hate. The family member also confirmed Robinson had a gray Dodge Challenger.
All right, we are going to pick that up from there in just a moment, but that's a whole lot of information to digest and talk about. And thankfully, as we're often grateful on Fridays, we have Chris DeGaulle, radio talk show host on the Salem Radio Network. You hear him from 6 to 9 in the morning Eastern time, and of course on the Salem News Channel. Chris, what a week this has been, and I really appreciate you finishing up your broadcast week with us here, because I've been watching through social media how you've been covering this story, and you've been focusing very much on Charlie's faith, on his knowledge, and his faith in the promise of his salvation should he die doing what he did, as he did. And I'd love for you to sort of reflect on, first of all, what happened this week, what we just learned, and how important it is that his family members and people around him ended up turning him in. I find that to be an incredibly significant and positive sign. What do you think?
It is, and it makes me wonder as I kind of audit the course of my day and my weeks, and when my family gets together, and does my family really do that a lot? I mean, there are people in my family, like all families, who disagree and have differences of view on politics. Maybe because of what I do, my family kind of holds their tongue, and we don't do a lot of that. I honestly can tell you, and I don't know if your family's the same, Larry, when we gather, we really do our level best to not talk about those sorts of things, and not because we can't if we choose, but we would prefer to focus on things that are more edifying as a family when we spend precious little time together. And so I'm struck that, as they're discussing this, they talked about how they didn't like Charlie Kirk, and I just think to myself, that's the kind of thing that my family, I'm not saying my family's better than this guy's family, but I don't know about your family. Who sits around and talks about, who's coming to town, and boy, do I hate that jerk.
Right. Yeah.
It's an odd conversation. There are people that come through your community, I'm sure, all the time, like mine, that I'm thinking, boy, I don't like them. I don't like what they stand for. I'd never go to their rally or their concert or their show or whatever. But guess what? I just don't go. It never occurs to me, I got to kill them. And that says to me what we all understand. That's what happens to people who are effective. That's what happens to people who are on the march, who are on offense. And I said that on X today, as you know, Larry.
Mm-hmm.
We're winning. You pointed it out. We're on offense. The president of the United States won an election that nobody thought possible twice. We're winning. We're on offense. And there's no reason for anyone to shrink away from the offensive victories that we're racking up. And Charlie didn't. He didn't shrink away. He wasn't afraid. He went into the arena and he stared down the worst, I'm confident knowing that there were people that wished he were dead. And he did it anyway. And that's what I took from the week.
Hate and evil and vitriol and bigotry actually doesn't attract people. It repels people. We know that. That's always been the case in America. Charlie was none of those things. He attracted people and grew his organization through a free flow of ideas, through humility, actually, through Charlie has admitted that he was wrong about things and he wanted to learn more. And he continued to say, listen, I'm here to learn from you. Let's talk about these issues. And I think that that's, as you said, he was on offense because he was winning. He was effective. That ended up being his greatest sin. We mentioned this stat yesterday, but it can't be repeated enough. In 2023, men in America aged 18 to 29 identified, the majority of them, as Democrat. In just 2 years, those same men, 18 to 29, now identify as Republican, and that swung a factor of 44 percentage points in 2 years. That's Charlie Kirk.
It didn't dawn on me how much he really infiltrated the zeitgeist of the young people in this country until my sons, my 20-year-old and 19-year-old sons, reached out to me. And they never reach out to me, Larry. I mean, I've been doing this a long time. So I've had kids for 20 years, and I've been on the air for 20 years talking about all kinds of different things. And this is the first time I saw them rocked by something. And one of the two of them got pretty darned angry. And I sat them down immediately to start talking through that and explaining why anger wasn't the way to go. But the thing that they were seeing online, and that's where everyone is a little trepidatious right now, is that energy that is both so hateful, but also so engaged with Charlie. Where does that all go? How is that diffused now out there in the culture? And one hopes that these young men, people like my sons, will rise up and become the next, if you will, Charlie Kirk in their communities, respectively, not turn
Hold
it
that
into
thought.
something nasty. Yeah.
I want to talk about our sons and our daughters who are of that age and who are now feeling some things that they never thought they'd have to deal with at their age. We'll get to that in a minute. Let's go back to the press conference. Governor Stephen Cox of Utah, where he talks about this suspect who's now in custody and the fact that it appears he got extremely radicalized.
Investigators identified an individual as the roommate of Robinson. Investigators interviewed that roommate, who stated that his roommate, referring to Robinson, made a joke on Discord. Investigators asked if he would show them the messages on Discord. He opened it and showed several messages to investigators and allowed investigators to take photos of the screen as each message was shown by Robinson's roommate. These photos consisted of various messages, including content of messages between the phone contact named Tyler with an emoji icon and Robinson's roommate's device. The content of these messages included messages affiliated with the contact Tyler, stating a need to retrieve a rifle from a drop point, leaving the rifle in a bush, messages related to visually watching the area where a rifle was left, and a message referring to having left the rifle wrapped in a towel. The messages also refer to engraving bullets and a mention of a scope and the rifle being unique. Messages from the contact Tyler also mentioned that he had changed outfits. I know there's been speculation as well as to the writing on those casings, those bullet casings, and I believe we have that as well. And I will share that with you now. So the area north of Campus Drive Road where the suspect crossed over, you saw some of that in the video that we released last night, consists of a grassy area with trees on the edge of the UVU campus. Investigators discovered a bolt-action rifle wrapped in a dark-colored towel. The rifle was determined to be a Mauser Model 98 30-06 caliber bolt-action rifle. The rifle had a scope mounted on top of it. Investigators noted inscriptions that had been engraved on casings found with the rifle. Inscriptions on a fired casing read, "Notices bulges, capital OWO, what's this?" ? Inscriptions on the 3 unfired casings read, "Hey fascist!" ! Catch! Up arrow symbol, right arrow and symbol, and 3 down arrow symbols. A second unfired casing read, "Oh Bella Chow, Bella Chow, Bella Chow, Chow Chow." And a third unfired casing read, "If you read this, you are gay, LMAO." We are indebted to law enforcement across the state who's worked seamlessly together, local law enforcement, state law enforcement, and our federal partners with the Federal Bureau of Investigation. We're grateful for everyone who worked together in such a short amount of time to find this person and to bring justice. I want to thank the public who has been so engaged, reviewing videos, helping us with sending in tips, and helping us get to this point. I want to thank the family members of Tyler Robinson who did the right thing in this case and were able to bring him into to law enforcement as well.
Yeah, I wanted to get to that last point because it is incredible. It is incredibly important to acknowledge and celebrate the members of the family who did something very difficult. Listen, we all want to put ourselves in that position, Chris DeGaulle, and think, obviously I would do the right thing and the moral thing and the legal thing. But when it is your son, when it is your brother, when it is a family member, and you know that turning them in for an evil thing that they do means their life will be forever altered and they'll go to jail for the rest of their life, or in the case of Utah, might face a firing squad. That doesn't make it easy. I'm reminded of the Unabomber's brother who turned him in as well. That's a big deal, and it should be acknowledged. Let's bring Chris DeGaulle back in here if we could. You got it. There we go. Hi, Chris. Thanks.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that, and I also want to talk about the messages on the bullets. But go ahead, take it.
I'll say, Larry, that's a great point, and one I was thinking about myself. Could I do it? I mean, I think ultimately you do it because it's the right thing to do. But boy, a tough thing to do, particularly if you love that person.
Your son. Yeah.
Someone said last night on cable news, I think it was one of the law enforcement talking heads who are contributing to the investigation, and I thought it was really sort of a basic point, but a good one, and one that I hope permeates in the future, and that is committing a murder and getting away with it in 2025 and going forward is pretty darn tough. And I actually liked thinking that way. I like that message. It's amazing what law enforcement can do now and how quickly they were able to find. I mean, in that sea of humanity at that campus, and one shot, and nobody saw anything, nobody could see anything, nobody could make out anybody. And then ultimately to end up finding really well-developed photos, still photos. And then, I mean, cameras on someone's house where he's walking down the street, and just, within hours, really 36 hours, they've got this full portrait of who this guy is driving back to his home a while away. It's a remarkable thing. I not to sound cliched, but when you watch something like this unfold, thank God for the men and women of law enforcement and their investigative abilities to draw a conclusion quickly.
Yeah, I agree with you. There is something comforting about that, albeit in this case, it's after the fact. Yes. Yeah. Let's talk about the engravings. We've heard a couple of those statements, obviously, hey, fascist, catch. And the Ciao Bello is a song, an Italian song that was used against the Nazis during World War II. It's actually a beautiful song. I hate that it's slimed now and tainted with this reference as being engraved on these bullet casings. There was also one that said, "Notices bulge, OWO, what's this?" So OWO in internet slang, emoji slang, is just sort of an image of surprise. If you think of a capital O, a little W, and an O, it's like your eyes are bulging out. And it says "notices bulge." That's like on Reddit forums or 4chan. Oftentimes this is sort of a joke where if you're attracted to a woman and then you realize that it's really a transgender woman, it's a man with a bulge. That's what that reference is. So there's a lot going on here with regard to what this guy decided to engrave on these bullets.
Yeah. Are you to interpret that? And again, I know you and I don't deal in internet Reddit slang, but are we to interpret that to mean he's mocking that, or mocking Charlie for his impressions of mocking that, or what he thinks Charlie was mocking?
My assumption was that it was, imagine Charlie, being attracted to a woman and then finding out that it's a transgender. Yeah. And it would be like a bullet hitting him.
It is interesting that they have, I heard someone else this morning making the point, nobody in this press briefing this morning actually asked if this guy confessed. I don't think anybody's actually directly asked whether he said, "Yep, I did it," or not.
Well, the governor said, and let me just do it right at the beginning because he references sort of a confession but take a listen to the words here. Let's play it one more time.
Tyler Robinson reached out to a family friend who contacted the Washington County Sheriff's Office with information that Robinson had confessed to them or implied that he had committed the incident.
There it is. Confessed to them or implied that he had committed the incident.
Okay.
So I'm sure the lawyers are going to start parsing that as soon as possible.
Yeah. I'm also very curious to see if, in fact, he gets the death penalty that the governor has been advocating for from the very beginning. The one thing people have been warning, I think, throughout this, I know we talked about it on my show, there's a sense that guys that do this sort of thing to people that our side aligns with, the president of the United States and others, there's this sense of injustice about it all, where we literally, these people kind of go down a wormhole and we never hear about them again. What you hope is we hear lots more about this guy, what motivated him, and then we actually see it through all the way to punishment, whatever that may be.
I agree.
We don't feel that way about the Matthew Crooks character, who ultimately dead, but we still to this day, we're all in the dark about that guy.
We know more about this guy now, 36 hours after killing Charlie Kirk, than we know about Crooks. Yeah.
Why?
And I don't know. Yeah. And my worry also is that the left, there will be people on the left, I'm sure that they're already out there, I haven't checked and I don't plan to look for it, who are going to Luigi Mangione this guy and
Yeah.
turn him into some kind of hero. There's also going to be a reaction from the liberal media who are going to try to rewrite history on this stuff. They've already rewrite. I mean, people still believe that Gabby Giffords was killed by a Sarah Palin, Glenn Beck, Rush Limbaugh official. Not killed, excuse me, shot in the head. Gabby Giffords is still with us, but they still think that that was a politically motivated attack. People think that the guy who torched Josh Shapiro's home is a conservative, Trump-loving Republican. And look at this, Yashar Ali. He's a liberal, independent journalist, but it needs to be pointed out he used to work for Gavin Newsom in San Francisco. He shared this. Authorities notably did not reveal why Tyler Robinson hated Charlie Kirk. They just said that he hated him, and it gotten more political in recent years. A reminder that Charlie was hated by a wide variety of people, including neo-Nazis who believed he was a tool for Israel and Jews. The anti-fascist engravings mean nothing if they don't match with the rest of his ideology and communications. Chris, so hey, listen, let's face it, everybody hated Charlie Kirk, so this could be some sort of disaffected right-winger.
Yeah, don't forget. I mean, yeah, they're hateful bigots inside what are called conservative chat rooms. So
They
it
can't
could
stop themselves.
Yeah, it could easily be that, or it could have been a little gunplay. Who was it that said that this week? That it could have just been some friendly fire from a guy monkeying around with his gun, because that's what people that go to Charlie Kirk events do. They just tote guns because that's it's sick. It is sick.
I wish they would stop telling us how much they hate us. And it's just,
honestly, Larry, and this is, nobody has to believe you or me when we say it, but I know you, I know your heart, you know my heart. We've talked for a long time. We think these people are vile, but it just never, ever, ever would have crossed my mind or think I can't even allow myself to go to a place where I think, oh, well, we're better off if they're dead.
Never.
It just doesn't, it's so foreign to me, and it's becoming kind of their modern parlance. They're constantly having these casual conversations about, well, I mean, when you say those things, it's awful.
A little bit more here. Here's FBI Director Kash Patel, who knew, like most of us, like many of us, knew Charlie, had interacted with Charlie, worked with Charlie. I think Kash and Charlie had a pretty close relationship, actually.
Lastly, to my friend Charlie Kirk, rest now, brother. We have the watch. And I'll see you in Valhalla.
Chris, there's been a lot of emotion on display this week. I have lost my composure a couple of times on the air. I suspect you have as well. Yeah. I think this is a healthy thing, actually, for us to be able to go through this process and grieve the way that we are. And I'll put it in the form of a question. I have noticed myself and others who do what we do, we do not have much patience. We do not take a deep breath and tolerate people who are trying to engage with us right now. Not now. It's too soon. And I've been quite abrupt and, frankly, right on the brink of anger with people who try to equivocate or throw any sort of butt in there after they send condolences. And I think that's good. I think we need to get to this point. I think it's taken too long for us to get to this point.
Yes, my wife and I have a family friend who is of the left. Like her a lot. We don't talk politics when we get together. We just kind of understand that's the thing.
Yeah.
She actually wrote, though, to say, and I was actually really impressed, and I actually want to commend at least this one friend. I think there are probably many, many others like this person out there who wrote us to say, texted us and said, I didn't know Charlie Kirk. I had never heard of him in my life, but this is outrageous, and I'm so sorry that this happened. And furthermore said, I know, Chris, this must touch you personally because of what you do. And the number of people that said, and I'm in no way am I trying to put myself on the platform of Charlie Kirk, but the number of people who acknowledged that this is the space we occupy, and that Charlie Kirk was killed for words he spoke publicly. Well, it does. It naturally makes all of us who speak publicly for a living in any capacity start to think, well, gosh, could I be next? Are there people out there that think I deserve to die?
Yeah.
So it is a demarcation point for all of us culturally to say, are we willing to kill someone else because we don't like what they say? And you kind of need to decide which side of the line you're on there. And I'm happy to report that my loved ones and friends, those who don't agree with me politically, I don't have any of them equivocating today. Thank God. At least I'm grateful for that.
Hold that thought too. That's two thoughts I want you to hold now that we're going to get to, but we've got a little bit more that I want you to interact with. Here's the young man who was speaking to Charlie as the open mic was going around there in Utah, just as Charlie was responding to him, and he was on CNN.
And people have obviously pointed to the irony that the point that I was trying to make is how peaceful the left was right before he got shot. And that only makes sense if we stay peaceful. And as much as I disagree with Charlie Kirk, I'm on the record for how much I disagree with Charlie Kirk. But like, man, dude, he is still a human being. Have we forgotten that? Are we crazy? Like,
yeah, and many of us observing think that they have forgotten that. One more video in that vein that I want you to see. This is one of those selfie videos from TikTok. This is from a self-described Democrat who has some pretty strong feelings about what just occurred.
As a registered Democrat, all I have to say is the Charlie Kirk shooting just proves that we are the worst, man. My party is the fucking worst. I got people celebrating, hoping that he dies. Are we fucking for real right now? Where's the empathy? Where's the respect, man? It's disgusting. It's disgusting, truly. And the fact of the matter is this: he was a father, and whether or not I agree with his political opinions, all he truly wanted to do at the core was see this country be the best. And I can fucking respect that. And to see people just be blatantly disgusting, man, we're the worst, man. We're horrible.
Krista Gall, I've been speaking quite a bit this week and using the words turning point, the name of Charlie Kirk's incredible organization, to describe where we are as a nation in a conservative movement right now. This turning point for us. So many people I've seen take to social media saying, you know, I used to hide my politics at the workplace. No more. I'm not going to be afraid. Why should I be afraid? Why should I be afraid of saying who I am? This is a turning point for all of those individuals, and they're using Charlie as a inspirational symbol for being courageous and speaking our mind. We're in the majority, after all, in this nation. What do we have to be afraid of? Could this also be a turning point for people on the left? Could it finally be this moment where they start to change the way they've been dehumanizing us and othering us and putting us in the corner so we feel forced to hide who we are?
I think the first half is very likely. And to finish my point on the previous comment was that my friend calling and saying, I didn't know who Charlie Kirk was, but I do now. I thought, God bless you, Charlie. His stature has only grown so much bigger. The president made that point. As big as Charlie was, there were millions of people that had never heard of Charlie Kirk. Charlie who? Yeah. They know who he is now, and they're seeing more clips of him now. Charlie Kirk has just been amplified to a level that he could never have paid for, quite frankly. And the things that he was saying, same deal. Do I think now more people will feel emboldened to say, oh, no, that's not the way this works in this country. And I'm done politely staying quiet at Thanksgiving dinner. I'm done politely not commenting on an interoffice email or whatever. I'm done. I do think that's true. However, do I think the left is going to have some sort of thoughtful retreat or peel back? I don't, but I more specifically think evil. It is really important to define and understand Satan is on the prowl in our midst all the time, and he's always seeking out those who are the most bold, specifically the most bold for Christ. That's never going to change. That will always be true. This side of heaven, there's always going to be evil writhing, prowling, waiting to take out the most effective amongst us. But we have to soldier on in boldness and faith. It's Paul That's says right. It's the persecution that we have to find joy in, because it's coming if you're doing it well. It just is.
That's right. And let's face it, we've all read the book, and we literally know how all this ends. We do win in the end. Right. We do.
And he did. Yeah.
Let's talk about our sons for a second, as we talk about boldly going out and following Charlie's example and proudly expressing our love for this country and basic human Western civilization principles that up until about a minute and a half ago were normative in this country. I got a message from a friend of mine that I went to high school with, Kathy, and she reached out to me after this incident this week, and she talked about her two sons who are both going to college in North Carolina. Listen to this. The worst part is how my two college kids are taking it so hard. His friends are inconsolable. Their biggest fear is being killed for their values and beliefs. They don't feel like they can attend their candidates' events or speak up without fear of death. It used to be a fear of being judged or someone grabbing their hat or getting into a fight. Now they fear being killed. What do we say to our sons and daughters who saw what happened to Charlie, and understandably, the lesson they're learning is actually quite the opposite, that they should, for their own safety and security, just keep their mouth shut?
I can only answer that with a story that I don't want to take too long of your show, and I don't know that you have the time for it, so I'll try to truncate it. But I wasn't going to share this on the show this week. I had no intention of it until it kind of occurred to me there's sort of a relationship to what Charlie and so many who follow him and like what he stood for have been doing. And that's being bold. My son took an unusual way home late at night from work one night and saw a man walking down the middle of a road near our home. And we live out in kind of a rural area that's pretty dark. And my son was telling me this over lunch. He said, "Dad, I don't know why. I just felt compelled to stop and ask the guy if he's okay." He was walking. He'd had a fight with his girlfriend. He was walking quite a ways home. And I offered to give him a ride. And I'm sitting there as a dad thinking to myself, good grief, you did what? You picked up a guy in the dark and gave him a ride? What? He said, "Dad, I don't know why, but I just felt for the first time compelled to ask the guy about his life and if he had a church home and did he have a relationship with God." He said, "I felt a little weird. I didn't want to pray for him, but I was trying to talk with him about God," is the way my son said it.
Yeah.
And I said, "Son, that's the Holy Spirit at work. And that's boldness. That's what we're called to do as Christians, is to be bold. You did something I wouldn't do. You picked up a guy in the dark and you tried in your way to plant a seed in a lost guy's heart. And that's what we're called to do. And that's what Charlie did. And so I would just say my way of answering that woman is I hope that we can teach everyone that Charlie, he lost his life, and that is frightening. But if we believe in what we say we believe in, we must be bold. We cannot retreat or shrink away.
Amen. And that's why God gave us that armor that we are supposed to put on as we walk down that road. One last thing I want to share with you as we try to make sense of this and try to figure out what the next steps are. People are still trying to figure out how we got here. How did this happen? I think many people that do what we do, Chris, you and I, we've been trying to communicate. This has been years in the making. This has been years and years in the making, and certainly in the last 10 years, where it has been accepted and celebrated to call people who think like us and vote like us fascists, compare us to Hitler. If we think that there's only two genders, that we are killing trans kids and gay kids. If we, support the police, we're racist fascists who believe in a police state. And again, this is all normative conversation that we accept in the New York Times, to CNN, to late night comedy shows. It's relentless. And when you dehumanize your fellow Americans who vote a different way than you do, ultimately we end up seeing what happened this week. I want you to watch this because I think we've forgotten. This was only a couple of years ago from the President of the United States.
Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans represent an extremism that threatens the very foundations of our republic. But there's no question that the Republican Party today is dominated, driven, and intimidated by Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans. And that is a threat to this country. MAGA Republicans do not respect the Constitution. They do not believe in the rule of law. They do not recognize the will of the people. MAGA forces are determined to take this country backwards to an America where there is no right to choose, no right to privacy, no right to contraception, no right to marry who you love. Trump and the extreme MAGA Republicans quote a clear and present danger to our democracy. But while the threat to American democracy is real, I want to say as clearly as we can, we are not powerless in the face of these threats. MAGA Republicans have made their choice. They embrace anger. They thrive on chaos. They live not in the light of truth, but in the shadow of lies. We've told ourselves that American democracy is guaranteed, but it's not. We have to defend it, protect it, stand up for it. Each and every one of us We're all called by duty and conscience to confront extremists who put their own pursuit of power above all else. We must be stronger, more determined, and more committed to saving American democracy than MAGA Republicans are to destroying American democracy. MAGA Republicans look at America and see carnage and darkness and despair. They spread fear and lies told for profit and power. The MAGA Republicans believe that for them to succeed, everyone else has to fail. Donald.
I've heard a lot of talk this week about how both sides need to tamp down the rhetoric, how both sides are guilty, how this is equal on both sides. Chris, it ain't even close. There's no both sides here.
You know how I spent Monday, how this week started for me? I was at the Museum of the Bible with the President of the United States, who called on the country every week through the next year until our 250th anniversary to pray. He said, we're a country that needs faith, and we need to return to religion, as he said, and we need to pray. And he implemented and asked that the nation turn to prayer. And could that be any less like what you just heard Joe Biden say? This is a president who has deregulated. This is a president who's amplifying messages of faith. It's the antithesis, as you understand. Intellectually, it's just a silly idea. You had young white women storming into a restaurant screaming that he's Hitler. He's the new Hitler. It's bananas, Larry. It doesn't even make sense. The totalitarians and the fascists are the ones that are shooting people for speaking. Not Donald Trump, not you and I who vote for the guy and just want a little more of our own money and national security and a border that's
the ability to raise our kids without putting them in danger when they go to school.
I don't want control over your life. I don't care what you do. I really don't. None of us want control over you, but boy, you people on the left, you want control over us. You want to tell us what to think and what to say and what to accept and what we can and can't worship. A gun we can or can't own. Yeah. You have the United States Senator from Virginia saying, I'm very uncomfortable with this idea rights come from God.
Right.
Ooh, that's touchy. I'm sorry. Who's the fascist? Who are we fearful of exactly? Not Republicans.
No, that is 100% what we have gotten relentlessly from the left, Chris. You're 100% right. And the message has been heard loud and clear. And if we disagree with you, if we dare to hold the idea that, oh, I don't know, maybe babies shouldn't be murdered in the womb, we are told that we are all of those things that Joe Biden just called us.
Try to save lives. That's your point.
Yeah,
life. This is a pro-life president. He wants people not to die. We don't think girls should be stabbed by somebody who's been out of prison 14 different times, stabbed in broad daylight. We want people to live. Fentanyl deaths, women raped and beaten and abducted, children trafficked because of all of the insane border policy that the Biden administration's implemented. This is a president committed to saving people's lives, and he's mocked and excoriated for it.
We support increasing law enforcement in our major cities so that we can protect lives and keep the city streets safe, and he's called Mussolini for it. That's where we are. And if we disagree with you, if we dare to stand up to you, we are asked to remove ourselves from society. And if we won't go, you will remove us against our will. That's the world you have created, and we've had enough.
And we're Hitler. It doesn't even make sense. I mean, it's not, if it weren't so damn deadly serious, it's a joke. You'd laugh at it.
Well, we're not going anywhere. I know Chris DeGaulle isn't going anywhere. I mean, I've tried to.
No, I got to pay my electric bill.
Get him out of the room.
I can't get a legitimate job, so this is the best I got.
Will not leave. He just, Chris, it's an early morning tomorrow. I said, oh, no, we'd love another drink. Absolutely.
I can stay here till Sunday if you want me.
All right, Chris, don't go anywhere. We're going to be a little bit more uplifting as we see the scene in Arizona as Charlie Kirk's remains and his widow return there, because it was oddly uplifting, actually. and will bring you hope. And we're going to show all of that to you coming up in a quick second. But first, if you care about the direction of this country, and I know you do, you need to be reading The Lion, published by the Herzog Foundation, the national leader in Christian education. The Lion is an award-winning news site delivering sharp, timely reporting on what's really happening in America's schools, culture, and government. It's the kind of journalism that cuts through the noise and gives you the full picture, especially when it comes to the growing movement towards Christ-centered education. But The Lion goes beyond classrooms. It covers parenting, faith, freedom, and the cultural battles shaping our future. Just like its namesake, The Lion embodies strength and courage, standing firm in a landscape where too many have surrendered our children's future to the left's ideology. Visit readlion.com, sign up for the daily or weekly newsletters so you never miss a headline. That's readlion.com. Clarity, courage, and news that keeps you informed and equipped. Charlie Kirk's remains were delivered to his home state of Arizona yesterday. And what happened on the ground in the Grand Canyon State was actually quite remarkable. And I think might give you a little hope if you bear with me and watch along with us. Let's first take a look at the scene in Utah as his casket was escorted to the vice president's plane, with the vice president leading the way. Pallbearers from the United States Air Force accompanying the casket as well, of course, traveling with the Air Force airplane that the vice president travels on. And then when what's commonly referred to as Air Force Two, the vice president's plane, landed on the ground in Arizona, take a listen to the message from the air traffic controller.
South 1555 Phoenix Air, wind 2409, runway 26, good line. Clear line 26, Southwest 1565.
Welcome home, Charlie. You didn't deserve it. May God bless your family.
Chris DeGaulle, I keep losing it emotionally at various times this week as we see this outpouring of love and respect and adoration for Charlie and the grief. There's something about seeing people express their grief openly in public that really gets to me, and I think it's a healthy thing for us. But between that moment and the moment at Yankee Stadium the other night where they paused for a moment of silence for Charlie and put his picture up on the board, and last night's football game in Green Bay where the NFL did the same thing, there's something hopeful about this in a strange way, isn't there?
I saw three different football players, I believe, today. You mentioned the Packers, and bear with me here. Yes, to that point. I just had this, and let me find it again. It won't take me but a second. Okay. I know, yes. C.J. Stroud at the Texans. He wants the team doing and the entire NFL to observe a moment of silence for Charlie. That's a player with the Texans. C.D. Lamb.
C.J. is a deeply devout Christian. I know.
C.D. Lamb of the Dallas Cowboys asks the Cowboys and other NFL teams to observe a moment of silence for Charlie this weekend. And the Packers, you mentioned, Jordan Love donating $320,000 to support Charlie's family, $120,000 for murals and floral memorials, and another $200,000 to a trust fund for his children's future. That's just one guy, Jordan Love, quarterback of the Packers. So, yes, I think it strikes me, it seems to me, that the fear of censorship, thank God, is dead. I think I mentioned this today on the show. I think Elon Musk actually bears a little bit, if not a lot, of responsibility and thanks for the fact that he has changed the culture in a way that now we're able to see things, exchange thoughts that we weren't allowed to do when it was Jack Dorsey's Twitter.
Yeah.
I think Charlie's presence, the things he said, the things he stood for, the viral video moments, he's only amplified now. I mean, he has really become, this assassin has now taken him from being a really effective messenger to now some sort of next level figure who is going to be eulogized in a beautiful way, probably literally cast as a statue on various campuses. There will be events named after him. The vice president is carrying his casket on Air Force Two. The president's going to give him the Congressional Medal of Honor, for heaven's sakes. I think that may well have elected J.D. Vance the next president of the United States, if I could be so bold. I'm not going to predict it, but I feel like that could happen. And I think this guy's bullet didn't kill a movement. I think it amplified it in a way we can't even quantify.
Yeah, amplified it, grew it, and galvanized it, I think.
Yeah.
I think you're right, too. I interviewed this morning on my radio show a young woman who runs the St. Mary's College chapter for Turning Point USA. And I asked her, I said, are you worried about your safety, about your danger? If you were my daughter, I would be very worried for you right now. And there was a bit of a pause. And she said, well, yeah. And I talked to my dad about it. But I told him that I'm willing to die for this cause. I'm willing to die for this country. 22-year-old woman.
I will tell you that I had a pastor friend who, I don't mean to keep reading to you, but people have been so smart. And this pastor friend of mine said something that I quoted on X yesterday, and I loved it. Here's what he said. He wrote to me and a couple of other colleagues, reflecting on Charlie's life, we should continue with fortified resolve to give everything we have to this battle, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. And when it's all said and done, we spend our lives trying to make an eternal difference for other people. I'm willing to live or die for that. And when I reflect back on the saints of Scripture and the martyrs of the church, it's not that they had a death wish. They just weren't afraid to die. What a model. And that's it. That's in your question. That was that woman's response that caught you. It's not being afraid. We cannot fear. We do not fear with the light of Christ at our back.
Chris, it is impossible to not notice when you read the Gospels how many times Jesus Christ himself greets people with, do not be afraid. Be not afraid. And John Paul II, when he was named the Pope after the conclave in 1979, I believe his first words as the new pontiff was, be not afraid. There's something to that.
The president was asked this week. I think the president was asked yesterday, are you afraid? Are you afraid of for your safety? And he paused for a minute and he said, no, I'm afraid for the country. I don't like this for the country. But I mean, the man's already been shot.
Right.
You know, how much more fearful can you be? I mean, he knows the danger. Charlie knew the danger. That's what I keep saying. I don't presume to know Charlie's heart or his head, and I don't know Erica, his wife, at all. I cannot believe these people were not fully aware of the danger that Charlie faced and the hate that was directed at Charlie. And I don't think they cared a little bit because they knew their Lord and Savior. They knew where the reward was, even if the worst should happen. That didn't stop these people from being bold. And it shouldn't stop us either.
Let's take a look more the scene on the ground there in very hot Arizona, but it didn't stop people from coming out in large numbers to just get a glimpse of the casket carrying the remains of Charlie.
We turned our camera, but there is a large gathering here. They started gathering here, I would say, 3 hours ago. Everyone has their phones up. You can see flags here, and we spoke to them a few hours ago, and we'll speak to them again once the hearse passes. And we heard that sound earlier today in our newscast.
Lindsay, J.D. Vance helped join the group of uniformed service members to bring Charlie Kirk's body home. What is the sense?
Okay, and I also want to show you this image here. This was the moment when Erica Kirk, the widow, it's hard to use those words, the widow of Charlie Kirk, emerged from the airplane with Usha Vance, the Second Lady of the United States. Obviously looking distraught and exhausted and no young woman should have to go through this at her age, to have to be a widow with 2 young children like this. I'm brought to mind our friend Mary Catherine Ham, who I know we both know and have worked with, when her husband died at a very young age. I remember going to the funeral, and she walked down the aisle pregnant with their second child, 8 months pregnant. A pregnant widow is a heartbreaking thing to see, and it's heartbreaking to see these images as well. But I keep using the word galvanizing. These images, I think, are bringing us all together in this grief. There's a reason why in Western civilization, in the Judeo-Christian model, we have ceremonies to acknowledge and express the grief that is associated with death. Isn't that important for us to go through this together?
Yeah, it is. And I, not to be redundant, I did not know his wife at all. And I began researching her a little bit last night on social media, and I was struck by her posts on Instagram. And I sat and watched several of them. What a composed, strong, beautifully articulate, and not in a forceful way, in an aggressive way, but in a confident. She carried with her such a confidence in every video she posted, speaking to other women about being a mother and being a wife and the importance of being married. And as I'm consuming that, I thought, here's a woman I didn't know. I knew nothing of her. I just knew Charlie's work. I never really thought to look into his wife, frankly. And now there I'm sitting watching this woman so beautifully, eloquently talk about motherhood and being a great wife and how important it is for the woman to be the guardian of the home. And I thought, good Lord, this thing is going to be amplified times 10, not just Charlie's message, but now his wife. People are going to be watching this woman and how she carries herself. And I guarantee she's going to do it beautifully with the strength of Christ. And now you've got a twofold message that's going to be amplified. These two people, they were a powerful force together, and they still will be. And I can't imagine how she hurts and how she grieves. But boy, I know who she is, and so does she.
Mm-hmm.
And for that, I know she's going to be great.
Well, let's look at this last image, which will be a lasting one. She got into the family automobile, I believe, or maybe a security vehicle with the second family as they escorted Charlie's remains to the funeral home. And she held out her arm, holding, when you zoom in on it, you can see it is a cross. It is a cross on a chain. As she holds back the tears, she held it up for everyone on the side of the road to see as she passed by. That is Charlie's cross that he would wear all the time. She kept it, and she's now holding it up to inspire everyone for Charlie, for his beliefs, for his work, and for his faith. And I think you're right. I don't think this is the last time we're going to see Erica Kirk. Hey, buddy, thanks for being here today with me. I needed to have a conversation with you.
You know, I love you.
I love you too.
God bless you, man.
Thank you. Hey, and rest up this weekend. And Monday morning, I need you right shoulder to shoulder with me, fighting this fight, because it ain't over. They're not going away.
No, we're not done. There aren't enough bullets, as I said this week. There aren't enough bullets. Do your worst.
You've been talking to Kurt Schlichter.
Love you, bud.
Love you too. All right. We've got a little bit more. Stay here. We want to show you a correction that will boggle your mind that the New York Times had to put out. They made a teeny little mistake in Charlie Kirk's obituary. They just can't help themselves. The only way they can get through the day is to lie about us, even in death. We're going to show that to you in just a second. But first, if you care about staying sharp and informed, make The Lion part of your daily routine. Published by the Herzog Foundation, The Lion covers the headlines that matter, from politics and policy to culture and faith, all through a common sense, values-driven lens. It's the kind of journalism that goes beyond the surface, offering the context and clarity today's news demands. Whether you're tracking big national stories or you want to know what's happening in schools, state houses, and communities across the country, The Lion delivers smart, well-sourced reporting you won't find anywhere else. Visit readlion.com to catch up on the latest must-read stories and sign up for The Lion's daily and weekly newsletters while you're there. That's readlion.com, news that informs and respects your worldview. I don't know why Chris has to say he loves me. Said we're not gay, okay? I had to cut the tension, Kevin. I hope that's okay. Kevin's not saying anything. Kevin's staying out of it. All right, hang on. I'm just getting ready for the next segment. Stand by, everybody. Don't go anywhere. It seems the liberal left can't stop themselves. They have to dance on the grave, almost literally, of Charlie Kirk. And of course, the only way they can slander him in death is to lie about him. We've got some horrendous examples of that to show you. The first one is probably the worst. It comes from none other than the old gray lady, the New York Times, the paper of record, they like to tell us. They wrote an obituary of Charlie Kirk. In the headline, they called him a provocateur, because he was asking for it. But apparently they made a bit of a factual error. During the writing of the obituary, they had to find something horrible that he said to explain to the readers of the New York Times on the Upper West Side why Charlie Kirk was assassinated. So they laid out there all the anti-Semitic things that he said, because he hated Jews. And then today came this correction. Check it out. Correction was made on September 11th. An earlier version of this article described incorrectly an anti-Semitic statement that Charlie Kirk had made on an episode of his podcast. He was quoting a statement from a post on social media and went on to critique it. It was not his own statement. In other words, Charlie was doing his podcast and he was reading something horrible that something had said, something I do on this show every day. Usually it's something horrible some Democrat says in the New York Times. And then the Times took that, Charlie Kirk reading some horrible thing some other person said, which he then turned around and criticized and attacked and disavowed. They left that part out and printed that he had said the horrible anti-Semitic thing. And I had to tell you something, as a person who has worked in journalism for, almost 2 decades now, that kind of fact is the easiest kind of fact to check. Whoever wrote the original article for the New York Times did not discover their error at the time because they didn't look for it. They didn't want to discover it. In fact, it didn't even occur to them. They saw the thing that Charlie Kirk said, and based on their predisposition against him and their presupposition of who he was, it made sense that he would say that, so let's go run with it. They're disgusting. By the way, David Burge of Iowa Hawk blog contextualized this correction beautifully by saying, we regret the error. Now back to the latest official casualty statistics from Hamas, because this is what the New York Times does every day. They don't care about the sources that deliver them lies. They print the lies because those lies fit their agenda, their political point of view. But that's just the beginning of the lies that were told about Charlie by the organized, respectable, elitist left. That's the New York Times. You don't get more respectable than that. And here's Stephen King, best-selling novelist on the planet and a crazy, deranged, Trump-hating leftist. He decided that it would be a really great idea to take a post honoring Charlie. I got to pause here for a second. Why can't they let us mourn? Why do they have to stick their nose into our grief and our sorrow? I'm not asking you to love Charlie Kirk. I'm not asking you to like him or even respect him. You can hate him. Just leave us alone. Let us grieve him. Let us love him. Let us go through this process. Why do you have to butt your nose in and urinate all over our parade? But that's what Stephen King decided to do. Here's Jesse Waters. He posted a video tribute to Charlie. And again, remember, think about the demented mind that it takes to be Stephen King in this moment, knowing that Jesse is not just reporting on a figure in the movement and the murder of an important political figure and media figure. No, Stephen King knows full well that Jesse Waters had a personal relationship with Charlie Kirk. And that's the other thing. They get off on this. They love crapping all over us in our grief, not just for an important political figure and an important voice, but also someone that we had a relationship with. Who does that? Who goes out of their way and says, oh, these people are feeling sorrow because this person has died, so now I'm going to jump in there and tell them why the person they're sad about is a piece of garbage? Which is what Stephen King decided to do. Jesse Waters posts, Charlie Kirk was not a controversial or polarizing man. Charlie was a patriot. This is a turning point, and we all need to turn in the right direction. Rest in peace. So, of course, Stephen King, he needs to defecate all over it. So he says, he advocated stoning gays to death. Just saying. The man's a monster. I was about to say there was something wrong with him mentally, but actually, no, that's too easy. He's too smart. He's too focused. He's fine. He's not mentally incapacitated. He doesn't suffer from bipolar disease. He's not got clinical depression. No. He's actually mentally sound as a board. He's just an evil piece of shit is what he is. You have to have a special kind of evil to decide, yep, I'm going to do this now. Hang on. I'll show him. I'll show you. Oh, you're sad? You're sad about this guy dying? Here, let me jump in there. He advocating stoning gays to death, just saying, says Stephen King. Now, this caused quite the uproar, as you can imagine, including and most specifically from gay conservatives who knew Charlie well and knew that Charlie actually was quite the opposite. In fact, I don't know if this ever came publicly or not, but I know privately, Charlie actually took some criticism from some Christian conservatives because Charlie was so open to gay conservatives in the movement and said, listen, what you do in your bedroom is your business. I disagree with you. I think it's sinful. But if you agree with me and you're part of the conservative movement, welcome aboard. That's how Charlie was. And by the way, that's pretty much how I am as well. But there are some who think, no, that's wrong. We should always condemn and we should always, not be that. I don't want to get into that. But I know that Charlie got some criticism from people in the conservative movement for being as open to gay conservatives as he was. I don't know, David Rubin, I think Guy Benson, I think a couple of other people who were openly gay and conservative, they punched back at Stephen King and basically told him to go F himself. So Stephen King then deleted his original post that you're looking at right now and then put out his apology. Now look at his apology post. I apologize for saying Charlie Kirk advocated stoning gays. What he actually demonstrated was how some people cherry-pick biblical passages. Now, I don't actually have any idea what the hell he's talking about there with regard to cherry-picking biblical passages. And the fact that he had to not just let his... I apologize for saying Charlie Kirk advocated stoning gays. I was wrong, period, is the way you do it, Steve. I'm sorry. I know that you're like a Pulitzer Prize-winning best-selling novelist with a gajillion copies of your book sold. So forgive me for giving you a rewrite, but let me help you with the English language and explain to you how you properly apologize for getting something wrong. But no, he couldn't even do that. He had to equivocate it in some way and still have it be some bash against Bible-believing, faith-based individuals who dare to think that perhaps homosexual acts are sinful because, well, that's what our religion teaches us. So his apology is, I apologize for saying Charlie Kirk advocated stoning gays. What he actually demonstrated was how some people cherry-pick biblical passages. And we're all supposed to be grateful that Stephen King apologized. And by the way, it's been pointed out that Charlie probably would have accepted that apology and then invited Stephen onto his show to talk it out. And Stephen, I'm sure, would have declined because we don't want to platform people like Charlie Kirk. I'm not going to grace you with my presence. Yeah, trust me. You'd be the one receiving the grace, Steve. I, for one, I am not grateful for his apology, and I'm not going to bend over backwards to say, okay, let's give credit where it's due. He apologized, because it's not really an apology, number one. And number two, as Jarvis points out properly, I would like to commend Stephen King, who in a moment of humility that is all too rare in our current internet culture, admitted to making a minor factual error while celebrating the murder of his political opponent. That was big of him. That's right. I'm sorry, he doesn't get any credit for acknowledging that he was wrong about what Charlie Kirk advocated, because the original sin, if I may use that phrase, Stephen King, was the fact that you decided to jump in and celebrate Charlie's murder in the first place. You should have just kept your phone down or used it for whatever other nefarious purpose you've got in mind and leave us alone in our grief. That's kind of all we're asking right now. And Jarvis is great. Well done. Meanwhile, those are sort of the subtler kind of ways that people had to lie about Charlie Kirk and then afterwards sort of mea culpa it and apologize. Oh, I'm so sorry. Gosh. But then there was the more overt, in your face, unabashed, unapologetic, hateful rhetoric that you get from, well, kind of who you'd expect to get it from. Congresswoman, is she still a congresswoman? Yeah, really? Great job, Minnesota. Congresswoman Ilhan Omar with Mehdi Hassan, who, of course, works for some terror-funding Middle East organization there who wants to make sure that his obnoxious views get heard. Here they were talking about Charlie Kirk. And can you feel the love here from these two? Let's check out the love, compassion, and understanding from our bleeding heart liberal leftists who are just full of empathy for their fellow man.
What I do know for sure is that, you know, Charlie was someone who once said, you know, guns save lives after a school shooting. Charlie was someone who was willing to debate and downplay the death of George Floyd in the hands of Minneapolis police.
I think he called him a scumbag.
Right, have no regard, downplay slavery and what Black people have gone through in this country by saying Juneteenth should never exist. And I think, you know, there are a lot of people who are out there talking about him just wanting to have a civil debate.
Complete rewriting of history.
Yeah, there is nothing more effed up, you know, like than to completely pretend that, you know, his words and actions have not been recorded and in existence for the last decade or so.
Yeah, that's terrific. That's the sympathetic, empathetic, feel the love liberal left in America. Did you notice the little jujitsu there? This is what I love about them. If you suddenly don't immediately pivot on every biological, scientific, and Western civilizational norm that we have known for millennia, that there are two sexes, male and female, and there ain't nothing else. If you don't immediately disregard that truth and adopt the idea that there are now 85 genders, pick and choose whatever you'd like, you're not wrong. We don't respectfully disagree. No, if you're not on board and follow them allowing boys into girls' locker rooms and boys into girls' sports and boys into girls' bathrooms, if you dare to say that if you're a heterosexual man and you're attracted to women, therefore you will not date a man dressed up like a woman, you know, because that's hateful. If you don't go all in on every little aspect of their warped transgender activism, they will call you a hateful bigot. The Juneteenth holiday has only been in existence at the federal level for 6 years. And if you voice your opinion and say, yeah, I don't think it should be a federal holiday, I'm sorry. You are, in her words, downplaying slavery. That's how she put. Oh, yeah. So if you're not on board with a holiday that didn't exist until, just a handful of years ago, and you dare to say, yeah, I disagree, you're downplaying slavery and therefore a racist. This is what they do. They keep moving the line of what is extreme and extreme and extreme and extreme so far. And if you don't follow them down that line, they will call you the extremist, even though you haven't budged where you are. You believe exactly what you believe today, what you believed 20 years ago. And 20 years ago, they were so much closer to you. But now they've moved so far away and force you to accept the extremes as norm. And if you dare to question it or challenge it, you are the hateful, racist, xenophobic, homophobic bigot. And that's what you just heard articulated here. I mentioned it the other day when Matthew Dowd, who advised George W. Bush 20 years ago when he was president of the United States, when Matthew Dowd said that Charlie Kirk peddled in hate speech, and when you deliver hate speech, you end up reaping hateful actions. That's what Matthew Dowd said. Every single political position that Charlie Kirk voiced on a regular basis with his platform were what George W. Bush, when president of the United States, claimed he supported as well. Pro-life, anti-gay marriage, pro-secure borders, enforcing our immigration laws, pro-law and order, strong on crime, supporting Israel, on and on and on. Matthew Dowd made a very beautiful, hefty paycheck from your tax dollars when he worked in the White House and from your campaign donations when he worked for the Bush campaign. He happily cashed those checks and claimed that he supported those political ideals too. But now, because he's on the outside looking in, he calls all of those positions hate speech that deserve violent recourse. This is what they've done. This is what they've done. And you and I, we're just still standing here, loving our country and loving our faith and trying to raise our kids and trying to follow the rules. And if we dare not agree with them and follow them off the radical left-wing cliff, we're the problem. And that's exactly what you just heard from Ilhan Omar. Ilhan Omar. By the way, she also issued some sort of statement. It's not an apology. In fact, she claims that what you just saw is fake news and a lie. While I disagreed with Charlie Kirk vehemently about his rhetoric, my heart breaks for his wife and children. I don't wish violence on anyone. My faith teaches me the power of peace. What was her faith again? Oh, yeah, that's right. The peaceful religion. Forgot about that. Empathy and compassion. Right-wing accounts trying to spin a false story when I condemned his murder multiple times is fitting for their agenda to villainize the left, to hide from the fact that Donald Trump gins up hate on a daily basis. Then she gives a link to the full interview. Yeah, we're not going to give Mehdi Hassan or you the clicks, ma'am. We're not spinning anything. Those were your words. They weren't out of context. I have more respect for you if you stood up and said, yeah, I said what I said. I don't want him dead, but let's face it. Which is exactly what she said. But, we continue to get all of these calls to tone down the rhetoric and dial it back. And, oh gosh, how did we get here? And maybe now it's going to be, yeah, well, I hate to break it to you, but Jasmine Crockett is right back where she's always been, as if nothing happened on September 10th. Here she is today. Here you go. Oh. So there's Jasmine Crockett trying to make a point, I guess, somewhere in there. And I do love Charlemagne the God on Breakfast Club. Just as if that was coherent. But I deciphered it. And what she's saying is, hey, it's okay if we call Trump wannabe Hitler, because that's not calling for violence. But the stuff Trump says, well, yeah, that's calling for violence. And that we have to condemn. But it's okay if we call Trump a wannabe Hitler. And so, of course, as if nothing happened this week, she goes ahead and calls Trump a wannabe Hitler. Listen, I'm doing my best to hold on to hope and be positive and think that things are going to change here. I really am. And every little glimmer of hope I'm going to deliver to you because we need it right now. But they got to give me something to work with here, our buddies over on the left. And if what we just showed you is any indication, they got a long way to go. Hopefully, they're going to unplug a little bit, put the phone down, touch some grass this weekend, and then we'll come back Monday. And we'll see if they're in a better place. I promise I will be. All right, my friends. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe our video. And let's get to your super chats. I'm going to start with your Rumble super chat. Oh, put that away. All right, Kevin. I want to start with Rumble because we always save Rumble to the end. Our Rumble super chats, we've got $10 from Above Average 007. Da-da-da-da. For Charlie, God bless. For Charlie, love your work on the man's work and your respect for a legend. I missed him because 3 minutes later, I received a Turning Point email to tell his donors how proud he was of the students. No way. Wow. Thank you for that, Above Average 007. $10 from Arthur Brogdon. This is not the beginning of the end, but rather the end of the beginning. That's profound. Thank you, brother. And a $5 super chat from Arthur Brogdon, Turning Point. Well done, sir. Thank you for that. And now, Kevin, we can get to the other super chats that we've garnered today. Angela, $20. Angela, that's overwhelming. We're used to your plethora of smaller coinage. Thank you. That's very kind of you. Since when does fascist mean love of Jesus? Family in USA. A young woman and two precious angels were robbed of the leader of their home because he tried to have civil discourse with the other side. Fight the good fight. We will, Angela. Well said. And thank you for framing that in the right perspective. Stumbleboots, $2 super chat. You're cool. Thank you for that. God's best friend with a £2 super chat. The other cheek has a difficulty turning. I know. It's very hard. It's very hard. Doing our best. Angela, $5 super chat. I know it's wrong, but I am angry. And it's not wrong to be angry. It's okay to be angry. We talked about that yesterday. Charlie epitomized sharing truth with love. He loved his enemy. Hate tried to stop him. We will not be silenced. Thank you, Angela. We will not. Pete Campbell with a lovely $4.99 super sticker. Thank you for that, P. I appreciate it. The support is needed. Ball State alum. Hey, Jeff, $10 super chat. Jeff told me that I made him cry yesterday. Yes. Robinson is a member of the SDS. You know who else was a member? Say it with me, kids. Hillary Clinton. Yeah. All birds of a feather, aren't they, Jeffrey? Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Hey, have you read Thor's latest book? It's not bad. It's back in D.C. I like the Brad Thor books when they're set in D.C. Christian L. Thorpe, $10 super chat. Senator Murphy said, we're in a war right now to save this country. You have to be willing to do whatever is necessary to save this country. Without shame, quotes the Marxist mantra, by any means necessary. You're right, Christian. In fact, he said that in an interview just the day before Charlie was assassinated. Senator Murphy is a monster, in my opinion. Christian Ellithorpe with a $2 super chat. Thank you, Larry, for helping me get through this week. You're very welcome. I'm not kidding when I say you guys helped me get through this week. It would have been real easy to just retreat into a corner and knowing that you're going to be here every day brought me to this side of the camera, and I appreciate it, Christian. Psychological projectionist with a £5 super chat. Biden, MAGA do not recognize the will of the people. Trump won the popular vote. Dems don't recognize MAGA is more the will of the people than them. Amen, brother. Yeah, watching that montage of Joe Biden and all of that hate and all of that violent rhetoric against Republicans, trying to other us, trying to dehumanize us. And knowing that 2 years later, the sweeping returns of the 2024 presidential election validated that we are not the fringe. We are the majority in this country, and we're not going to take this garbage anymore. Thank you, sir. That's why I wanted to play it. Rec USA with a $4.99 super chat. Please discuss stochastic terrorism. Well, I'm out of time, but I will we'll try to add that to the agenda. Thank you for the recommendation. You got that, Kevin? Kevin keeps notes on the show. Kevin, why aren't you talking today, Kevin?
Well, I've been having some tech problems, as you know, today.
Oh, that's right. I apologize. I didn't realize it was infringing on your ability to. It's true. Kevin's having some tech problems. Angela, the $5 super chat. We must remember John 12:25. No fear. In the words of Chuck Schumer, the left has unleashed the whirlwind. We will be bold, courageous, and unstoppable. Amen. Thank you, Angela. You guys are great. Dino R with a $20 super chat. Thank you, Dino. That's so kind. Thanks, Larry, for all you do. We know Charlie is doing great in the presence of our Lord of Jesus Christ. Still, we need to pray for Charlie's wife and children to grant them comfort. Yeah. Amen. What a week. Thank you guys, seriously, for being a part of this community and being a part of our family here that continues to grow every single day. Don't forget to like this video if you could and subscribe so that we keep building and we can keep our voice going. And yes, big news. We hit 600,000 YouTube subscribers. So that means we will be scheduling a special celebratory show, probably in prime time, sometime next week. We just have to figure out what day and make sure that Kevin's available to do it. But we'll do it, and we can't wait. Thank you for that. Don't forget to leave a comment in the section below to tell us how you found us, especially if this is your first time watching the show. Tell us how you found us, because that's huge for us to know. We're building that. It's helping our marketing campaign. Thanks, guys. Have a great weekend. Get some rest. Say some prayers. Live life to its fullest. And we'll be back Monday to fight again. My name's Larry O'Connor. You can call me Larry.